Good morning, and thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. I am your host, Sharifa Hardy, and do we have an exciting show for you today? I'm going to introduce you to our guest, and then guess what? We're going to start the conversation, which I'm sure you're going to enjoy. But go ahead and get your notepads, get your pens, because you will want to take plenty of notes from today's guest. Our first guest is Mr. Dane Maxwell. He's an author, he's an expert, and he helps people with financial freedom. He's going to talk to us about his new book, Start From Zero. Good morning, Dane. How are you?
I'm very happy. Thank you. How are you?
You look happy. I can just see all the excitement just pouring off of you.
Oh, good.
Very good. Our next guest is Katie Kimball. She is the founder and CEO of Kids Cook Real Food E-Course. Good morning, Katie. How are you?
Good morning, Sharifa. I just ate breakfast that my kids made yesterday, so I'm winning at life.
What did they make?
It was a cinnamon blueberry grain-free bread.
Cinnamon blueberry grain-free bread?
Yeah, with a cream cheese glaze.
Where
It's really good.
Where are you located?
I'm in Southwest Michigan.
Okay, well, we're going to have to figure out shipping because I need you to ship that to Long Beach because I want to try that. I love I'm a sampler. I love tasting different things.
Deal.
Our next guest is Dorothy Enriquez. She's a coach, speaker, and facilitator. Good morning, Dorothy. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
You look amazing. I love your background. I love your hair. It's all just flowing. Everything's just flowing and blossoming and growing.
Yes, life in bloom.
Oh, that's what it is. I love it. I'm gonna have to take that, life in bloom. Now we have two guests, our next two guests, they work together and they are here today to provide us with information on how they can help in this crisis. Let's introduce Dawn Lane and Richard Cardenas from PHP Agency. Good morning, you guys. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
I am excellent. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's unmute Dawn. It's an awkward pause. Good morning, Dawn. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Sharifa?
You're up this morning, ready to go to help people with their finances.
Absolutely. We're here to help wherever we can help.
That's
Can't
what
wait
we
to
do.
get started.
That's what we do at PHP Agency. Now, I want to go back over to Dane real quick. We were talking a little bit about the show. We were talking about finances and how you help people. Tell us a little bit about your book, because you launched it on the 31st of March, which happens to be my birthday, but right as this pandemic happened. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I'm debating how much I want to freak people out right now.
I'm scared. Like, you look like you're in a little closet and you're just like, do I want to freak people out? I'm already freaked out. I don't even know what to expect.
Well, if we've already passed that line, that's good. So I've been in a process of trying to surrender my personality and surrender into a divine path for myself, like what a karmic responsibility might be for me, or how to use my gifts for the greatest good. And that's been quite challenging, but in the process of surrendering personality, I do a process of deep listening and see where I might be most needed. And it's not often where my personality wants to be. And so basically updating my personality. Long story short, serial entrepreneur, 16 businesses, 11 failed, 5 succeeded, pattern recognition on what worked and what didn't work, taught a bunch of people, have 15 millionaire students to date. A lot of my students are top players in their industry. I show people how, without expertise, they can start a business, no ideas, no money, no expertise, no capital, and using fundamental pattern recognition and frameworks rapidly create businesses very, very quickly, making money so fast, sometimes it can make your head spin once the skills are installed. But that takes time to install those skills. Most people aren't willing to install those. where this comes in terms of surrendering personality, if I'm actually doing what I say I'm doing, it's kind of difficult to say. It's a difficult process because I don't have a lot of role models for what I'm trying to do. That being said, I like to sit in meditation. I like to sit in the realm of the subtle energetics. And when I did that, I left business, went into music for 3 years, released my 3rd album. And then I had a book publisher contact me. They asked me if I wanted to write a book. And, you can feel that whole spinal cord go boom, yes. And, you say yes to something like that. Then as the book was coming out, as I was thinking about the title, I was sitting here in this room, which is in the basement. It's not quite a closet, but it's close. And, as I was sitting here, I kind of heard a voice say the words "start from zero," kind of up over here in the right. So I don't know who or what. So I ended up titling it that, "Start from Zero." And then it released March 31st in the pandemic when people were starting to get reduced to zero. And this, in my opinion, is probably the most useful book anyone could ever read on how to actually start a business without expertise, without confidence, without even experience, and even without money, because there is a way to do it. In fact, the heart of entrepreneurship is to start from zero. And that's what we do, whether we know it or not. So this book is broken down into 7 different learning adventures, and it's got research in here. We did a personality assessment across a 26-factor analysis of people's personalities using a personality assessment called Hexaco, which is a 26-factor analysis of personality created by PhD academics in universities, not marketers. So it's not very well known, like a Myers-Briggs, for example. But we did. We took 30 financially free students of ours, and some that were not, so we get a more diverse sample size. And we found out the top 5 most common qualities and the bottom 5 lowest scoring qualities of our top entrepreneurial graduates. Those top 5 and bottom 5 traits are in the book. For example, in the 7 learning adventures, adventure 7 is 15, not 5 like my publisher wanted, but 15 examples of students who are all employees, who all transformed into entrepreneurs, including the business they started, the customer, the pain they're solving, the solution they created, the offer, the price. 26-factor analysis of their personalities right next to the profile, so you can look underneath the hood of the entrepreneurship of the entrepreneur, so you don't get into comparison and start beating yourself up with what do these people have that I don't have. None of that can happen. This book is like the great equalizer that just destroys any possibility of anyone not ever being an entrepreneur for any reason at all. And that's just been a big mission of mine. And that's just adventure 7, by the way. There's 6 adventures that lead up to that. But what I say with the responses that I've been getting from the book are just nothing short of phenomenal. But I'm not surprised, because 15 years of experience to spend 2 years writing a book, that to have 5 editors look at, to do a rewrite, to pour my whole soul into it to a degree of excellence that was painful for me to hold the whole time, until that book came flying off the shelves and hit #1 in the entrepreneur category on Amazon, which is quite competitive. And we're hopefully just getting started. But I want people to have businesses they can hold in their hands, no matter what their self-talk might be. So Richard, I really like your thing behind your wall. And I'll also say, I struggle to believe in myself on a day-to-day basis. And the thing that gets me through that is seeing that that's only an experience and it's not actually who I am. So if I have the experience of not believing in myself, if I believe that, that's a completely different story than noticing it. But not believing in myself is only an experience. And when I see it as that, I can see that there's a much greater aspect of myself that can hold anything that's ready to go in a certain direction.
Very interesting. I want to talk a little bit about Richard, because we talked about what he had on his wall before the show, and then you mentioned it again, Dane. Richard, let's talk about what you have on your wall.
Yes. So basically, I have a phrase that if you hang out with me for too long, I will brainwash you to believing into believing in yourself that you could achieve anything. And where I got that from is, it was a gentleman, David Goggins, where he had to recreate himself. And obviously, you can see I'm an athlete, 18-time marathon runner, triathlete, and what my athlete career has taught me was stamina. Business is a game of stamina, and in believing in yourself. And I think that a lot of people, like what Dane was talking about, like you need tools and you need direction and into believing that you could achieve anything. And for me, from just being an average Joe 13 years ago when I got in this industry, and now to being able to help thousands of families get ahead financially, it was a game changer for me. So I have zero limitations, and I am actually when I was younger, I had a brain injury, and I was, I had to recover, learn how to talk, walk, and so I had a lot of limitations growing up, and that's where I brought that, that phrase, because I'm like, if you're gonna be around me, you're gonna get better.
Mm-hmm. But you also bring that into your business world. One of the things that you mentioned is that you help thousands of families. What exactly is it that you do?
So basically, a little bit about me. I'm an advisor in the financial world. So I started in banking, then I went into 2008, the market crash, and I went into without knowing the traditional industry, Mass Mutual, great company. I was there for eight plus years, and I learned the rules of money. And then I found the PHP Agency, because they weren't just helping the 10% of income earners that the traditional companies were doing. The PHP Agency was helping everybody. And I said, wow, wait a minute, like that's because I have a crusade, and the crusade is let's get our communities better. And this is how we help them. I tell people, I help people resolve the 5 gotchas of money. What are they? First one is healthcare. It's hurting them. It's hurting people right now with COVID-19. The next one is debt. The next one is taxes, inflation, not keeping up with inflation. And the 5th one we can't help people with, but we could try to help change their mindset, is procrastination. Then I said, out of those 5 gotchas of money, which one's got you? Well, oh my God, all of them. Well, we need a meet. Well, one of them, we need a meet. So regardless of whatever the answer is, we got to make sure that people are giving the information, because the traditional industry has failed millions of people, hardworking baby boomers, and they don't have the right resources, and they're struggling right now. And if we don't change, the new generation X, the millennial generation, is going to be hurting even more.
That's very interesting. I want to go back to Dane for a minute. You talked about your book and some of the top traits of an entrepreneur. Can you give us some of those top characteristics?
Yeah, I gotta look them up because I keep forgetting them.
It has to be personality, because you are just dripping with personality. I think that must be at the top of your list.
Well, adventure 1 is the 3 little rocks. And the 3
Okay.
little rocks are these things you put in your pocket, and then you're ready to go on the next adventures. The first rock is a daily question you want to ask yourself at the end of every day. Be kind of cool, Richard, to see how your families would resonate with a question like this. But that question is, what did I do to build equity today? Or did I build equity today? And my top entrepreneur friends, we build equity every single day. And that could be a blog post that goes written that now works for you. It could be some part of a book. It could be a course. It could be a new marketing asset that you've created. But my most successful friends, you spend 10 years building equity every single day, you get super, super rich. And then the second rock is that we don't get to decide what works as entrepreneurs. So we really need to bring a tremendous amount of humility to the game of entrepreneurship, because we can think that we know what works. And, if we're experts at a certain topic, then we will suffer from mechanism first thinking our idea is what will make us free, but that's not what makes us free. For Katie's example, where she's helping families do cooking, that's not what parents are buying. They don't want a cooking course. They want the result that the cooking course provides, which is, hey, your kids, Katie, you said your kids made you breakfast this morning. That sounds pretty darn good to me as a result. It's not the cooking course.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. We're selling the independence, selling confidence, life skills.
Yes. And so what I do when I'm like, Katie, if I were you with your business, unsolicited advice, but for other people to use if you don't, is what's the dream result? What's the dream result that you're looking for by buying this kitchen course? What's that result you're really looking for? And parents will give you some usually very simple, very basic answers. But I use those answers to then market my services. And that's when business really stops being a struggle, is when when we say we don't get to decide what works, The struggle in business ends the moment you start listening to someone. And so how do you listen, right? Say, so I've got this product service. What's the result you're after by buying it? What's the result you're after? As soon as you get the result, it's just like you're in a lawn chair sitting back. In terms of those top 5 traits, what sticks out to me, I'll look up the top 5, but the ones that really stood out for me, the bottom 5, the ones they scored low on, I remember those really easy. They're really low at low perfectionism. They have really low quantified levels of fear. And those were the 2 big ones. It's interesting. The Hexaco scores personality traits on a 0 to 5 scale. And the guys and gals, the students of mine that have the 7-figure businesses, interestingly enough, their fear score never goes above a 2 on Hexaco. The guys that have the 6-figure businesses, or the gals the six figures, they typically have a little more fear in their nervous system. And that's okay if you have a positive relationship with fear. But if fear triggers an identity that I'm less of a man or I'm worthless as a human because I'm feeling fear, then that can just suck you right down the not a good slide. But one of the other top traits that they had was a high level of social self-esteem.
That sounds interesting. I mean, all the information is just pouring in, and I'm taking notes and I'm looking at those qualities. I want to go back over to Katie, being that you are a CEO in your business. What are your thoughts on some of those qualities?
I think it's fascinating that people who are good entrepreneurs have to have low fear scores, because my husband and I are both entrepreneurs and we're very risk averse. So we probably would score really high. I'm a highly sensitive person, so it means I just like internalize other things, and I try to like take everything on my shoulders. So I'm probably not a very good entrepreneur, to be honest. Like I'm probably hampering myself because of that. So I think that's fascinating. But it's funny, this afternoon I'm getting on calls with like 6 people in my community, just random members or people who have not been members yet. So I just added that question: what's the dream of this cooking class, and we'll see what results I get. Yeah.
And
Awesome.
just to say, entrepreneurship is one of the most beautiful fields I've ever seen, because it's one of the only places where you can actually build a business around who you are on a personality trait level. So we've got students that have debilitatingly low social self-esteem that have set businesses up where they just don't have to talk to people.
Right.
There's no, the fully automated business online. There's no criteria that says you don't belong in entrepreneurship. I think the only criteria, if there was one, was your ability to generate a result for someone that bought something. But other than that, like, you could have high levels of fear. I think mine are higher than one of my students, and those are just the 7-figure earners. But I will say, it's the other thing that was interesting. Bill Gates looks like a real nerdy dude, but if you watch the Inside Bill's Mind documentary, there's an employee that tells his offhand story where he said, "Dude, Bill is fearless. We'd go on mountain biking things, and he would literally just go straight down the mountain on a bike." And the way that the Hexaco scores fear is how averse you are to causing physical harm. So one of my friends that has the biggest business, one of my biggest graduates, he's over 10 million a year. He'll go surfing the day after there was a shark attack in an area. And I'll ask him, why do you do that? He's like, well, sharks don't attack twice, and then I don't have to compete with other surfers. And so maybe it's not really like, maybe he rationalizes it's not fear, but be yourself as an entrepreneur and say yes to those qualities. But you can also change personality traits if you want to.
I love it. Katie, how long have you been in business?
I've been working online for 11 years, and the course has been out for 4.
Oh, wow. So what has this pandemic done to your business? I mean, the key word that I'm hearing now is pivot, 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 pivot. Almost every business in almost every industry had to make some sort of pivot in order to remain in business.
What's funny is I hesitate to say this is exciting for me, but I mean, I help people stay healthy and learn to cook at home and work with their kids, and everybody's cooking at home and all the kids are there. I'm like, this is what I do. Like, I can help people do this well. So in a way, my only pivot has been like ditching the editorial calendar that I had and focusing on how do you, buy long lasting vegetables? How do you stretch your meat? And just like creating content that's really focused on the times. And I guess we pivoted a little bit with Kids Cook Real Food because we wanted to make the course really accessible. So usually we're like open, closed system. And we were actually closing our cart
Mhm.
when everything was closing down, like when all the schools were closing. We thought, well, that's not good. So we need to like open up, and we just created a short 2-month membership. So it's
Mhm.
really small fee, make it really accessible for families. But we are finding that like everybody had a couple weeks to breathe, and
Mhm.
everything stopped and schedules were cleared. And moms tell me like it felt so good. It's kind of what
Mhm.
I'd been yearning for. And it's not like I'd ask for a pandemic, but the fact that we could clear our calendar was like a relief to some moms, a lot of moms. And then it all picked back up. Everybody figured out Zoom, and schools went distance learning. And now like, boof, like our schedules are full in a different weird way. We're not driving around,
Mhm.
but we're figuring out tech. And if you have, like, I have 4 kids. I just got off the call this morning with a mom of 6, and she said it's a lot, like just
Mhm.
schooling the children really fills the day, and people don't feel like they have extra time anymore. So our next pivot is just to create an independent study that bigger
Mhm.
kids can do, and we can say just turn it on. There's no sidebar, there's no distractions, there's no like next video to draw them in. It's just, here are some things you can do without touching the sharp knives, so that moms and dads don't have to be as close. Because again, we just really want to build these skills in kids. And I know it's hard because I don't always want my kids in the kitchen. I just want to get my stuff done and not have them asking 5 million questions. So like I'm a normal mom too. I just know the benefits. Like I haven't cooked Sunday dinner in 3 years. That's
Mhm.
that's the dream right there. It's, shared responsibility.
No, I understand. And one of the things that you mentioned earlier is like there's almost a sense of guilt of this being an opportunity for you, because there are people getting sick. There are people who have unfortunately lost their life. But this pandemic has created a lot of opportunities for a lot of other people, not only from the business perspective, but from the learning perspective, because almost immediately a lot of universities said, you know what, we're going to offer these free e-courses. There's never been a time ever where so many people were learning new skills, whether that's learning a different language, learning how to cook, learning how to code, whatever it is because people are like, okay, now what do I do? One of the things that offers an opportunity for other people, I want to go over to Dawn real quick, is we were talking yesterday about how you changed your approach in working with people. Before the pandemic, you were like, oh, well, let me tell you about this opportunity. We're stepping out into the community. Now you're like, look, this is the time. This is a crisis. You have to take care of people. Talk to us a little bit about that, Dawn, please. Dawn Lane, if you don't. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, we have Dawn.
I think, I've been an entrepreneur for almost 30 years now, and being, it puts you back into who you really are and puts you into a zero excuse, point of life where you have to be accountable. And the more you can step out and start helping people, you're right. Before we used to say, okay, we're stepping out into the community. Now we're talking about how can we help you? What do you need help with? And we're doing, like our business before was very busy with hands-on. Now we're on the phone all day and we're talking to people via Zoom, and we're reaching out to the different communities. Like I was talking with a pastor yesterday, and he's like, I want you to go out and help my people because they're not coming into the church. They're having church at home now. And, just the fact that we're a part of PHP, which, is one of the, most amazing companies I've been with, because we're offering entrepreneurship in a very positive way and benefiting our communities. And, working with Richard has been one of the most rewarding things for me thus far. And I just like the idea that, she's at home and she's cooking Sunday dinner for her family, we normally we get away from that, and we're so stuck into the 9 to 5. Now we have to be accountable. Now we
Yes.
have to be accountable for our schedules and everything else. So it's been very rewarding, and just talking to people, and everyone, is cleaning their houses out, and the people on the call really don't know my background, but I've been a feng shui consultant for the last 30 years. I'm very largely known in the spiritual community. So when I stepped into the financial industry 4.5 years ago, it was a little bit different for me because I have a real estate background and a marketing background as well. And so for me to be able to combine all of those things together, and now since we are I say crisis mode because there's a lot of people that we're counseling now on the phone, and they're needing our services to keep them structured at home, because when you're sitting in a house for a week, or two, you start freaking out a little bit. So getting them organized, to a daily routine. People are finding that there is no time available, that they're finding time to do everything now.
Yes, I want you to speak. The specific point that I was referring to was the life insurance aspect, where before people were like, oh, I'll get to it. I have all the time in the world, I'll get to life insurance. But now you're like, you know what? Now it's the
Right.
time.
Now, we, I was talking with Richard the other day. He actually had to deliver 4 checks with people that were diagnosed with the coronavirus. The amazing thing about the life insurance, people are wanting it more so now than ever before to protect themselves and their families and their assets. It's an urgency, and it should be an urgency. Life insurance is one of the most amazing things that provides you with not only a safety and a security, but longevity and a retirement plan as well. And I think I'll have Richard talk a little bit about that. That would be really awesome.
So yeah, I think what the life insurance has changed, and there was traditional life insurance where you passed away, you would get money, but now 2 years ago the industry changed where you have life insurance built in with living benefits. So especially with COVID-19, people that are infected and had the policies are able to pull out death benefit while they're alive to keep them founded with, to pay their mortgage off, to cover their bills while they're going through this, opposed to a person that lost their job and they don't have any income and they're stressing out and they have to deal with COVID-19. Like it's such a big, it's a huge difference. So like right now, a lot of people are buying a lot of life insurance, but not so much because they might pass away, but so much because they respond in crisis. And they're saying, well, I might get sick and I might need to pull out some income. So a lot of people are concerned, and we are just like opposed to branding financial literacy, but also branding entrepreneurship and saying, hey, you know what, we need to protect you, but you also need to start generating income. So here's an opportunity.
Absolutely. And I want to move, we're going to talk a little bit about that more, but I want to move over to Dorothy real quick. Being a coach and a speaker, what is it that you've seen and you felt during this time?
Yeah, so I focus on learning and leadership development. And during this pandemic, I noticed that, like what you said earlier, this is really a time where people are focused on learning and personal development because what's her name? Like what Katie was saying, there was this lull and people were having, openings in their schedule. So this was a time when they were, taking the opportunity to review those courses they bought, to look at the gaps in their development, to look at how they're showing up at work or not showing up, because this whole idea that, yeah, everyone's in quarantine, but everyone's not going to stay in quarantine. And we are going to emerge out of quarantine in a more competitive environment because of how people are pushing themselves to pivot and transform. So leadership is going to be required whether we're sheltering in place or not. And so leading from that virtual place or leading in the front lines when we are all back at work and face to face, that requires us to engage in some self-development, a little bit of introspection, and really taking a look at what type of leadership traits are going to be necessary for me to navigate during this time, but then what type of leader do I need to be when this all ends?
And what type of leader? What are the characteristics that you see?
So I think a leader needs to be a couple things. They need to be flexible, they need to be grounded, and they need to be congruent. And what's going to be really important for all of us, because all of us are leaders, how effective we are changes from person to person. But even if we don't have the title, we have the ability to influence. And so by being well-grounded, by being flexible, and by being congruent, it helps others work with us more effectively, because they know where we draw the line in the sand, and they know that we're not a one-trick pony. We have the ability to be the leader with vision. We have the ability to be the confident leader, the leader with integrity, the humble leader. We need to be able to switch these hats on and off as needed in order to adapt to any environment. And by being able to be a leader that can transition in these different elements, that also allows us to go from just being ordinary to remarkable. And it also allows us to, inspire others to learn more, do more, dream more, in order to create more leaders in the workplace and outside of the workplace as well.
Absolutely. One of the industries that was hit is a lot of our speakers, because we're always going out speaking at this event, speaking at this engagement, speaking here, speaking there. And now because of this pandemic, we are forced to do the Zooms. But I mean, these are maybe for some people few and far between. It's not the same pace that we've seen it before. How has it affected you and your business?
Yeah, so it's affected me a lot. So with the facilitation, which is what I do primarily, half of my clients postponed as soon as the quarantine was put in place. And then half of them were able to pivot really quickly and say, I held my hand up, leaders, like stage time is leadership time. Hey, can we do this virtually? And that client was actually very flexible, which was a total blessing. But literally half of them postponed immediately. And then the other half was able to pivot. And now I've had, after the lull that Katie talked about, I had a client reemerge saying, you know what? It would be great for us to try and do this virtually. But when you think about facilitation, if this were a facilitated class with all of us right here, we got to make sure that everyone has a computer. And if they don't, do they have a phone? And if they have a phone, how's that going to impact the learning experience? There's so many checks that we have to create. And while virtual has been around forever, not everyone is used to learning in this format. And so we have to teach folks virtual etiquette and really partnering with our clients to say, if we're gonna pivot our business and really identify the you in virtual, what does your organization need to do in order for this to be successful? So it's a challenge for the speaker, yes, but it's also a challenge for the organization. And then sometimes it's a challenge for the participants, because I think the mute button is the best example. We're used to just being able to interact. We're in person, we don't have to unmute and mute. And so it just takes our brain a second to process that the format has changed and now we need to change along with it.
I love it. Words to live by. I want to go back over to you, Richard, real quick for a moment. And again, we were talking about businesses that were pivoting. One of the things that I saw, especially with so many people being unemployed at this time, that it offers an opportunity for them to say, you know what do I want to do now? What are some of the careers that I can take a look at? Have you seen that and found that to be true?
Yes. So we learned a skill. So we have 176 offices around the country, but we were only doing 2 trainings a week. And with this whole pandemic, we got together as leaders and said, hey, can we use each other? And the skill that we learned was we weren't leveraging technology to the fullest. And now we do 4 trainings a day, 4 virtual recruiting overviews a day. So like every day, Monday through Sunday, we have something going on with different leaders, and it's not me doing it all where I'm like exhausted, like, oh my God, I can't do it. It's the leadership where they took responsibility, and we're learning how to maximize the word out there to people that are unemployed. But we have to ask, and we ask them very simple, like, hey, there's 3 types of people. The first person is they're unemployed, they're waiting for their stimulus check, but you know what? They're probably Netflixing and chilling, and that, in a couple of months, it's going to be very bad for them, because that's going to be their new habits, their new identity. Person number 2, they're working, but they lost 25% of their income because of this whole new they had to adapt. And person number 3 is they're an entrepreneur and they're pivoting. They're finding ways of involving. And then I'll just say, which one are you? And then we offer an opportunity. We plug them into one of those virtual recruiting reviews. We get back to them. Hey, what do you think? And this is what I look for. Like, yes, I'm open. If they're not open, they're not open. You know, but what I could tell you as a company, because we have 15,000 agents as an agency. Last month we did 5,000 we recruited 5,000 agents. We know we're not going to keep 5,000 agents, but we'll keep a good 2,000.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we are maximizing technology and branding at its fullest. Like Dane said, you know, like everybody here, they're talking about entrepreneurship, and this is the best time to actually launch it out. Like, hey, listen, there's not a best. What is your plan B? That's pretty much it. Like, what is your plan B? You know, you lost some income. What is your plan B? If I could help you get back what you lost, having a plan B, would that be okay with you? Yes. And the Department of Insurance have their test sites open. You know, I just got 3 new licensed agents 2 days ago. So we are an essential business, and I think we come through when crisis is around for people.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well said. Dane, I want to go back over to you for a minute and the whole start from zero. One of the biggest fears, I believe, of an entrepreneur is they have this thought in their mind that I have to save $10,000. I have to have everything, you know, my whole business plan written, everything done before I can launch my business or become an entrepreneur. But your whole aspect is that you can start from zero.
Yeah, let's use an example. So let's say, so there's a whole new context that I want to paint for how business can be started. And I think that being an employee is riskier than being an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. I thought this for a while, and it's because of the context I have. It's not because one is risk, like one could be, it's the context that creates the risk. It's the context you're working from. So the context that I am teaching people to live in their bones is people first, problem second, sales third, outsource product creation to expert fourth, get result with that first customer fifth, scale sixth. People first, problem second, sales third, outsource product creation fourth, get result, scale. That is being a business owner, not a expert trapped in business, thinks they have business, steps away from business tanks, they don't actually have a business. To get into the business owner realm, and which I think Katie has, because she's selling courses, for example, that's quite a leap to make. And it's most expert-based businesses are inherently subtly stressful, inherently subtle, have survival emotions, because there's so many aspects of the business you have to do when when the business is dependent on your expertise, when you need to be thinking about customer acquisition and these other things. It's really important. So let's use an example. Let's talk to gray African parakeet owners. Gray African parakeets are $1,800 parrots, and they have one of the most beautiful singing voices of any bird. Let's talk to a person that has that, and let's say, what problems do you have with your gray African parakeet? And they say, you know what, it kind of poops all over the house. It likes to bite, and it hurts. Sometimes it'll bite my friends. Sometimes I can't get it to stop singing when I want to sleep, and things starting to cuss. Like, and those are serious problems for they're encountering this every single day. So now you sales third, you say, well, is this a problem that's painful enough that you would pay to solve it? That's your one question to do a sale. Mm-hmm. And they say, yeah. And you say, okay, great. So now you go and you look up, so you've got a sale pending, if you will. Mm-hmm. You could even go further and say, what would you pay for this to have this problem solved? They're like, oh, I'd pay. Keep in mind, a gray African parakeet's $1,800. So let's say it's $300. They say $300 I paid to solve this problem. Not unheard of. In fact, there's a business online, and I just love this guy's business, and I've stalked him for years. I don't even know him, never met him. Birdtricks.com. The guy sells these exact products, and he's been killing it for 10 years, just kills it. I think he does so well for himself. You go to his website and it says, who else wants their parrot to stop pooping everywhere and biting them? It's hard hitting sales. So now you call a parrot store and you say, hey, do you have any parrot trainers on staff? And they say, no, not here. So you look up another one. You say, do you have any parrot trainers on staff? They say, yeah, we've got a parrot trainer on staff. You say, can I speak with them? Sure. So you speak with them. You say, hey, I'm talking to gray African parakeet owners and they have these issues. Do you know how to solve these behavioral problems? Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about finding an expert to teach this. Would you like to teach these behavioral problems? And I'll give you 20% of the profit of all the business sales. You'll get passive income. All you got to do is teach. Does that sound of interest to you at all? Oh yeah, it sounds really great. Okay, so why don't you just use your iPhone and record some lessons and send them to me on Google Drive, and we'll send it to our first customer and see if they get a result with it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't say website first. I didn't say logo first. I didn't say business plan first. I didn't say business card first. I didn't say LLC first. I said people first, problem second, sales third, outsource fourth. Now we send the Google Drive files to this gray African parakeet owner. They watch them, just to the guy of the iPhone. They take the thing. There's a great question. They send it back. Okay, so you get the question answered in another video. Boom, now they're getting a result. Boom, now you've got a testimonial. You've got your first customer. You got your first testimonial. Now you're ready to scale. By the way, you weren't an expert. You focused on a person. You really found out their problem. You asked if the problem was painful enough that they'd solve it. You went out and found an expert. You had the expert teach it. You can build a business so rapidly. You can make money so fast it'll make your head spin. But ever since Rockefeller created the education system to churn out responsible employees who sit in lines in a classroom and are punished if they fail, and their top business is risky, there's no risk in what I just shared. There's emotional risk to some degree, but there is no risk.
I love that. You know what? Put the book up again, please, Dane. I got to see this book. That's what I want to.
I'm preaching over here. I'm preaching.
No, wait, put it down a little bit so we can see. There you go. Start from zero, and then you said awesome. Amazon, correct?
Yeah, just start from zero on Amazon. I'll do one more fast example because This is great. This is crazy. I'll do this in 60 seconds. Let's say you talk to video editors and you find out video editors. You ask them what their problems are in the video editing process. And they say, you know what, man, B-roll music for my videos is a giant pain in the butt. I just can't get the right B-roll music. And my clients are so demanding. They expect me to have this great B-roll music. And I can't find the right B-roll music to match the tempo for the scene that I'm recording. And they say, great. Is this a problem that it's worth paying to solve? They say, yeah, of course. And so you say, okay, now you go to Craigslist and you look up all these musicians looking for work that don't make any money, and you start contacting musicians, and you build a network of these guys. You build like a pianist, a guitarist, a cellist, and you just literally have them probably record it into their iPhone mic. You can send that to a producer, and you can probably make it sound really good because they can do crazy good production stuff. And then you give these musicians a 20% profit split, and now you're in business selling stuff to video B-roll editors. So now here's the thing. And this is so I teach this a lot now. And every person that comes to me that struggles, every person that's come to me, I'm not saying this is universal, but every person that's come to me that struggles, all of them are technically gifted at something and cannot sell to save their life. And if you cannot sell, you will forever be dependent on an employer or someone else for your income. If you cannot sell. I wrote down as we were talking, I said, the greatest lifestyle decision I ever made was the decision to be an entrepreneur. And it was a decision that I just made. And I think the number one skill of a free entrepreneur that's not in survival mode, that has complete freedom, selling is the number one skill. Outsourcing is the number two skill. Done. You need nothing else. You could probably get away with only outsourcing, but then you'd have to sell an outsourcer to work for you. So you probably do need sales.
You are amazing, Dane. We're going to have a whole show with you. You definitely have to come back because I wish we had more time. And Richard, talk to us.
Dane, so interesting that 13 years ago when I got into the industry, one of my biggest commodities that my coaches told me and said, learn how to sell. And I couldn't sell for 8 months. I was on the verge of quitting. I said, I am done. But but I knew something. I said, I cannot be dependent of a job. I cannot. I had just got fired at that time. I said, and it really sucked. It felt really crappy. I said, I gotta figure this out. He said, stick it out. He goes, because if you quit, you'll never know. And one of the biggest things that I have a 19-year-old son, and then I have a 7-year-old son. He was running, my 7-year-old was running with me at 5 in the morning. And I framed him. I said, hey, you could wake up, you could sleep and be a loser, or you could wake up and be a champion, whatever you want. I'm leaving. I want to be a champion, right? So I'm molding him to believe who he wants. He could believe anything, have zero limitations. And I think that when I go back to what you were saying, is so, I'm going to get the book, by the way. It's so big because there was a point that I didn't think I could sell. And I tell everybody, like, if you learn sales, you will forever have doors open. Like, because sales is sales, law large numbers, 1031. You know, you could sell anything and get in any industry if you want to. You know, I just picked the financial industry, but I think that that's so powerful of learning that commodity is selling, because, you know, you're basically selling yourself. And I think what people don't understand, like, oh, I don't like sales. Yeah, you do. You have a husband and wife, you sold them. You've been selling your whole life, you know. So teaching them again that they've been selling since they were kids, they just forgot to stop. They stopped dreaming and stopped believing in certain things. But that was a really good thing.
Yeah, Katie, talk to us. We were talking about sales, but I want to go back because you are one of the people who, again, have been able to grow and expand. Tell us a little bit about your course, because your course actually solves a problem for the parents.
It does. Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of parents, when the kids all came home from school, they were like, what do we do? Like, not only how do we just fill our time, but, you know, for intentional parents, it's how do we fill it productively? So I just polled over 1,100 families. Are you teaching a new life skill in this time? And now my audience may be a little more, you know, toward the yes side than most, but over 90% said yes. They are, like, intentionally taking this time of quarantine and thinking, hey, you know what? This is a good time to do all that stuff we didn't have time to do, even though we quickly got scheduled. And I love, like, my son's high school principal has been sending out, you know, get sleep, get outside. And hey, parents, like, teach your kid to set up their voicemail, teach them to check the air in their tires, teach them to sew a button. Like, these are skills that will last. And I think that's my goal here, is to remind families to look for the silver lining. Right. And I would love to have people say, hey, remember that time when we all had to stay at home together? Like, isn't that when we learned to cook? Man, I'm still doing that. And I'm 50 years old, you know? So it's just to think about, we eat all day, we eat every day, and to be able to build those skills. You know, we teach kids ages 2 to 12, knives and fire and all sorts of risk-taking stuff that they'll probably make them good entrepreneurs too. If Dane has anything to say about it.
Yeah, Dane's going to help us all. But Katie, when you mentioned, if I heard you correctly, you said you pulled over roughly 1,100 parents. From a business perspective, what does that mean, pulled over? Did you do an email blast, social media? How did you reach out to these parents?
Yeah, I just sent an email and I said, one simple question, yes or no. Are you teaching new life skills in this time? And it was a single click. We had 1,155 responses in less than 24 hours. I was like, all right. People do still open their emails, but it was great to see, like, people are definitely focusing on life skills, and you know, whether it builds my business or not, whether it lasts for me as a business person, like, I'm mission minded and purpose driven too. Like, I really, really do want every kid in America to know how to cook. Like, I don't know, 1 in 3 college students doesn't know how to boil an egg. They're Googling, how do you boil water? And I'm like, this is not okay. Like, we need to nourish our bodies, and we need to get the statistics of, like, obesity and depression and all this stuff down, and feed ourselves healthy food. So that's I see this as an opportunity for families.
Yeah,
I really love that that you're doing that, because it's very important that whatever goes in your body affects what goes on in your life.
Yeah.
I think during this time, especially with honing in your skills, because I agree with Dane. Sales is very, very important in entrepreneurship. If you don't have that technique or that skill, you know, it's something that you could really be working on right now. But, you know, it applies to everyone right now. Because, you know, I've noticed by being on all of these different Zoom calls, before we used to go into the office, we are, I would say, like 110 more percent active in using social media and reaching out to people. Life skills are very, very important. And I just like to talk to everyone. And so just reaching out to people now more, I wasn't doing that before. Categorizing and talking to specific categories, like, okay, well, today I'm going to talk to real estate agents. Tomorrow I'm going to talk to restaurant owners. And I've actually been going out into the communities and talking to the restaurant owners because they are in their restaurants now, as before they wouldn't be. So, in helping with on a financial level, people are unaware of finances. People are afraid to even look in their bank accounts or in their pensions. They're afraid to even know what they have in their accounts. So, I take it's truly a passion for me to go out and talk about financial literacy to everyone, all ages. I've been talking to a lot of the seniors. I have 3 70-year-olds on my team that I work with, and then I was talking with my friend yesterday, and she's like 60 years old, real estate agent. She says, "Well, Dawn, I really like the insurance industry," and I'm like, she says, "I really want to incorporate it." So, I started thinking about it, and so we're reaching out to all different kinds of categories of entrepreneurship, and working with them in different levels. So it really makes you start thinking in your mind. And one of the things that we've started is a morning meditation and prayer session group with people, because people have to stay focused, and so, like Katie, like you said, I don't know if I wanted a pandemic to happen, but it's allowing people to get back to grassroots and also start seeing what's most important in their life.
I've heard
Amen.
so many moms say they're finally meal planning again. They're finally shopping intentionally. Like it's not a good idea to run to the store for one thing right now. So it's good for our executive function to think ahead. We're using up our food. We're wasting less. I hope we're wasting less. I'm just like really hopeful that people can continue these positive like habits after this is all over, right? Maybe we need a little less. Maybe we can eat, a little healthier, use up all the food and get the kids involved. Like it's such a confidence builder for the kids. It's beautiful.
Dawn, can I ask Dawn a
So
question?
they are the key to our. Sure.
So you're talking to business owners every day, you said. That's phenomenal. I could give you guys the 5-question framework to use on people when use with people when you're talking to them, if you'd like. I can run through it really quick. What's your most persistent and present problem right now? Persistent and present problem right now. And then just like, if you can, go into this energetically spiritual space where you like energetically tell them they have full permission to be honest and they have full permission to go anywhere they want. Otherwise, you could have the subtlest like psychic manipulation with that question. Number 2 is, how are you trying to solve that problem right now? And make sure that is asked without any intention of like, you shouldn't be having a problem. You should be ashamed that you have a problem in the first place. Permission for the problem to be there. 3rd is, what happens if you can't get this problem solved? And then question 4 is where you have a lot of fun. And you can ask this a few different ways. But the basic question is, if you had a magic wand, how would you solve this problem? Now, you could really say, like, go to Disneyland, be a kid, you have a genie. How could you solve this problem? And by the way, asking these questions to kids is nuts because they're so imaginative that their magic wands create really innovative product ideas. And then question 5 is, would this be worth paying for? If so, how much? So, you ask this to kids who struggle to play the piano, and, their magic wand is to have this like flying bird by their head that just keeps whacking them on the head until they practice piano. I don't know if you can create anything with that, but, to give you an idea of the creativity that comes from it. And if you do those questions enough and keep those in a journal, every time you ask those 5 questions, you'll build the entrepreneurial part of your brain that knows that you don't have to be the expert. You don't have to come up with the idea, and you don't even need to come up with a solution. The customer will tell you exactly what they want.
Well, thank you for that, Dan. I was talking with my team the other day, and you're going to find this very funny. I said, okay, well, now we have to come up with a team name. And they kept going in circles and going in circles. And finally they said, Wham! And I said, Wham! They said, yeah, we're magic. And so they keep calling themselves We Are Magic. And it creates a creativity in the team that makes them start thinking in a different way than they normally would think. They're very creative now. So what can we do next? And it's very motivating because they're bringing out that inner child that needs to come out and play during this time. Very, it's needed. And we don't think about that on a normal day-to-day activity.
Yes, I
And
think
I
that
know
was
just working with Richard, I can see his creativity, and he's bringing it out. As a coach, I just love the fact that he's my coach.
Oh,
Yes, I think that's wonderful. I think we are going to take Dane home with us. I think Dane's going to be my new BFF. Every morning, I'm just going to call Dane and say, Dane, what do we need to do today? Okay, how do we start from zero and wind up where you are with 11 out of 16 successful businesses? I heard that, Dane. I'm calling you every morning. Don't block me, okay?
it was 5 out of 16.
Hey,
Oh,
Dane,
5
I would
out of 16.
love for you to come and speak with our group if you are open to that.
I'm here to serve, but after that 16, it's like 90% plus success, because you don't have to start it until you know it'll sell.
I love that. He said that with a straight face, though. Like, these numbers are unheard of, and it's just like every day for Dave. Like, this is just a walk in the park for Dave. I just love this show. I had a great time. It's always interesting how my shows always start off the same, where everyone's kind of giving their introduction, and all of a sudden it just moves into conversation. So I want to ask Dorothy a question, and I may go over a little bit this morning, but I didn't give Dorothy enough time, and then I'm going to end the show. But as a coach, has there been any specific tips, strategies, advice that you've been giving your clients in order to successfully operate during this time?
Yeah, absolutely. One of them is really around empathy and compassion. Because I think that sometimes, when we're working, our bosses might say, why did you miss the deadline? Or how come you were late to the meeting? Why did you have to jump off early? And really what I've been telling folks is that it's not working from home. It's working the best we can, because as we've heard from everyone's stories, things have changed dramatically. You are working from home and everyone is there with you, whether it's roommates, parents, children. And now we're all in one spot and we're all on top of each other and we can't leave. And so we have to be sensitive and compassionate to one another and be able to still build this safe environment where people can be open, honest, and transparent to say, you know what, I have to deal with my daughter and she's only a year, or I have to work with my son and he really needs help with his homework. He's getting ready for a test. And normally it would not be like that, but really coaching around this idea of empathy and compassion. But then also I've had a huge focus lately on, how you show up as a leader in going from ordinary to remarkable with my new ebook, The Plug, and this whole idea around being confident, because our confidence tends to go up and down, right? And then we have to figure out ways to regain and recultivate confidence as we are navigating different situations, but really giving folks, some tips and tricks to build and rebuild confidence as our situations change. Because when we all got sent home, for some of us, that caused our income to decrease. We had to figure out how we're going to set things up. Some people got sent home and they didn't have proper capabilities because of their organization to work from home, or they weren't set up to work from home. And so you're this powerhouse in the workplace, but then you get sent home with all your kids, all your family, everything, and our confidence begins to wane. Can we do this effectively? Can we do this efficiently? And so we have to be able to listen to that inner critic and replace those negative thoughts with positive thoughts that are going to be empowering, but not just showing compassion to others, but being compassionate towards ourselves as well, because we need it.
Yes, we do. What's the name of your ebook again, and where can people pick it up?
It's called The Plug, Become the Remarkable Leader Everyone Wants to Know. And you can just go to my website, www.dorothenriquez.com.
Yes, this has been a wonderful show. What I like to do at the end of every show is just allow my guests a few seconds to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching the show live, as well as everyone who's watching in the archives, and just let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance. And we're going to go ahead and give the floor right back to you, Dorothy.
All right. Well, if you take away nothing, take away this. Everyone is a leader, and you are required to lead from every seat you sit in. So don't be ordinary, be remarkable.
I love it. Every seat you sit in. Katie.
Yeah, I just want to encourage parents to slow down for just a minute, say yes to the kids when they ask to get in the kitchen, and think about, in these crazy times, everything feels really uncertain, and what is going to last. We got to ground ourselves in what will last, and that's those life skills. And in particular, of course, getting the kids in the kitchen and just trying it. Like Dane said, don't be risk averse, don't be fearful.
Right.
You're an entrepreneur, a CEO of your own household, and just let the kids do.
I love it. Dawn Lane.
I just want to, be of service and help, and we're out here to help people. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a recruiter. I'm a life insurance agent. I'm still reaching out into the communities and talking to everyone I can. And so my thing is, if you need help or anyone needs help, we're here of service to serve you at any time. And my link is in the box.
That's
And
right.
I would love to have Dan come and speak to our whole group.
We're gonna give Dane a whole lot more work. Don't worry about that. We have Dane booked through 2023. He's a baller. We know Dane. But real quick, Dawn, I want to go back to just add to what you said. Not only are you helping people, but you're helping people start their careers.
Correct. We are in the recruiting business to bring life insurance agents on that can help people that are entrepreneurial minded, that have a focus. We're merging with real estate offices. We're merging with people that, you have to get your taxes done. So we want to be available everywhere because everyone needs help with retirement plans. The market just crashed a few weeks ago. People lost almost a third of their retirement, their 401ks. We have the coronavirus going on. Right now people need to evaluate their life and see where they need help the most. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to help them in that category, no matter what it is. And if, whether it's their student loan, their debt, their 401k, their retirement planning, whatever it is, we're here for them.
We are here for them. Mr. Richard.
So, just like Don said, we are recruiting, we are helping families on a daily basis, but I think more is like helping families understand to reanalyze what they're doing because there's new changes going on. And one of the biggest things is, making sure they are covered, making sure their assets are covered, making sure that last month they weren't hit hard with the stock market drop, $25 trillion loss, making sure that when people lose money, like significant money, they get like in a coma. And we want to get them out in the coma and say, hey, ask for help. It's okay. Your strategy didn't work, but like ask for help. So that's what we're here for. But to take one of the things I want to close with this is having an attitude, changing the mentality. Like instead of having a attitude mentality, giving a gratitude mentality, a gratitude versus attitude mentality. Being grateful every day and say, you know what, times are changing, but we could find resources and we are what we eat. With Katie, I'm so big on that. Our family's meal prepping. It's amazing how much energy you get when you put the right food in your body, right? And we do live in a country where obesity is at its highest. So it's a big deal. That's why I'm in math. I'm a runner, but having a gratitude mentality versus an attitude mentality. And remember, you are what you eat. You are what you put in your mind. So just change it. You have that decision to change it.
Yes, you have a positive mindset. You can definitely change it. And so we're going to give my new BFF Dane the floor for his final words.
I would say you are worthy of starting a business.
That was deep. That was I think we've expired Dane's advice. You are worthy of starting a business. That's how we're going to end this show. I would love to thank all of our guests for joining us on today's TGIF. Thank God it's Friday's episode of the Round Table Talk. I want to thank everyone who watched the show live, everyone who has shared this show, as well as everyone who's picking it up in the archives. I definitely appreciate you, but I ask, visit the links for our guests, find out what they're about, go to their websites, follow them on social media, because they have given their time, their energy to be able to assist you today. And I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you. If you're interested in being a guest, visit the website at AskSharifa.com and click on the Be a Guest link. Until then, everyone have a safe and a wonderful weekend. Bye now.